Welcome to the Growers Mineral Podcast. This episode features audio from our most recent conference call. Each month, we host a live discussion on Zoom, bringing together farmers, agronomists, and industry experts to share insights on soil health, crop nutrition, and sustainable farming practices. For more information about Growers Mineral or to join our next call, visit growersmineral.com. And now, enjoy the discussion.
Yeah, we can hear you. This is Jim Halbeisen. I'm going to be in charge of the February call. And for those of you that haven't been around, or the guys that have been around, we basically use our calendar as our educational tool. And where the calendar that particular month, which this month is February, whatever that covers, we try to go to that area and let our guys kind of introduce us to the area and tell us something about the picture and talk a little bit about their operation. Before we get started, I was given the task to talk to everybody on the call, and I'll do this at the beginning and at the end, that we have extended the 6% cash in advance discount. Again, some of this is going along with the payment that's coming from the government, the step payment, which is supposed to, help with people that, or, all of us that are struggling with some of these input prices and low commodity prices. So that will go to March 27th. And we'll make another announcement for that at the end of the call also. So this month in February, we're going to take a little trip down south, and I'm very happy that we can do this. The picture is Bob and Jesse Merck, and they have some gentlemen that they're working with down there, and I think it's pictures of their operation. And Jesse and Bob will be talking about their own operation and then discussing with these gentlemen what they're doing now and what approach they're looking at. But the thing that I'm very interested in, and I had a short chat with Jess and Bob about, the weather that they've dealt with down there. And again, this is, when I was in North Dakota, Minnesota last week, nobody's happy about the weather, I can tell you that. So, but this year we got into a few extremes, and that affected our guys in the South. And they're trying to get cranked up down there with some of their operations, and that cold weather threw a real curveball for them. So I told Bob and Jess to just kind of educate us a little bit on what they're dealing with. And, I've had a couple calls already about, fruit, particularly peach trees, a little bit in the apple area too, dealing with significant cold events, and see what the Mercks can talk to us about. They're not dealing with trees, but again, they're dealing with succulent tissue, trying to overcome these low temperatures. And we feel that with the program, a couple things. When you've got the calcium on, we feel that's very helpful because of the biological life improvement. But with the application of the product, we have the micronutrients in the product, and those will depress the freezing point. Plus, we're trying to get the crop to build some sugar in the tissue, and that also will act as something to depress the freezing point. So we think it's not perfect, but we think it gives the guy a lot of options to work with. So I don't know if Jess or Bob are going to take the lead here. Whoever's going to take the lead, introduce yourself, tell us about your operation, tell us exactly where you're located, and then however you've got it set up with your gentleman you're working with, if they're first or you're first, it doesn't make a lick of difference. I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let you lead us in the call this evening. And I'll get some questions in there so that we get a lot of these various points covered. So it's all yours, guys.
Yeah, I'll let you go ahead, Dad. Talk about the operation and everything we've been dealing with.
All right, yeah, this is Bob Merck. We are down in Kingsland, Georgia, which is the very southeast corner of Georgia, um, about 10 miles west of I-95, right on the Georgia-Florida line. And we grow strawberries and vegetables, a variety of vegetables, mainly in a plasticulture. Um, and strawberry is usually our first crop of the season. We plant strawberry plants in October, and then start feeding them and getting them established and so forth. Um, and this year we decided not to push them hard. We kind of pushed them hard last year going into the winter, but this time we decided not to. So we typically fertigate with growers, and then this year Jesse was mixing up selectricide and putting with it, which we seem like it has helped. So we're pushing 2 gallons. We've pushed as many as 4 gallons to about an acre and a half through the drip. And then we also try to foliar feed a gallon or so with selectricide in the mix weekly or so, depending on what the weather does. We usually do it at night or at least after the sun goes down. And we were especially trying because we've had more cold down here than we pretty much ever get. Our worst night was a couple Sunday mornings ago when it was 19 or so, which is extremely cold and very windy, gust up to about 28 miles an hour. And so in the past, we would overhead spray, so we'd get a film of ice over our strawberry plants and protect them. But we had to move our plants into some new ground where we don't have overhead spray, but we couldn't have done it anyway because of the wind blowing so hard. So what we did, we foliar fed and fertigated as close up to those hard freezes as we could, just trying to give the plants and the microbiology everything it could have. And then this time we just pushed water through the drip, like all the way through the freezing period, just trying to put some heat in the beds to keep the strawberry crowns alive, which I think we did pretty good. It killed the little berries that were there in the blooms, of course. So it's delaying our start until probably 3 or 4 weeks. It'll probably be March now before we start. Usually it's February. But that's what we did. That's really the only option we had this year. Um, but we've had friends that are hour and a half south of here, near St. Augustine, Florida, that their strawberries got hurt pretty bad. And they're not typically don't get anything that hard down there, but I know even down in the Plant City, they've had a rough time. Mostly overhead spraying, and a lot of ice, and that's when it gets that cold, when it gets below mid 20s, it's hard to protect them, and you get too much ice if you can't put out enough water to keep the ice wet so it's not getting too thick. But just very extreme year. But now blueberries, I'll let Jesse go with this one, or Jeremy. That was another challenge down here this year, but I'll let y'all talk about that one.
Yeah, pretty much. We've heard different scenarios where people were trying to spray over the top of them, and in different scenarios trying with mist or whatever else. But it getting so loaded down with ice, they're just breaking apart. And honestly, it'd probably be good just to talk with Jeremy because you pretty much delayed yours, right, Jeremy?
I, I did. I delayed everything that does not have frost protection on it. Now, my fields that got frost protection on it, I didn't spray them to delay them, and I didn't even try to frost protect. It was way too cold, way too windy, and would have done a lot more damage to the plants and future crops. Try to save, the first round of picking on this go round.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. Going back to the strawberries, it's probably $20,000 revenue hit, maybe 30,000 for us. And, we're on an acre and a half of strawberries. So that's not huge compared to a lot of people going on, especially down into Central Florida. So it's going to be a pretty large hit to the economy of ag in our area, just because people are missing that, the Valentine's Day for the strawberries. But, we know some guys that it seemed like they don't know to, I guess, spray whatever you sprayed to delay that first bloom on your blueberries, to kind of push it back into the season. And I think they're just toast at this point.
Yeah, I had to learn that one the hard way. It's from what I've been hearing about blueberries in our area. Florida's not used to having cold weather like this, so most of them will just pull insurance on it, and the 1 out of 10 years they get hit, and I think this is that year that they got hit, because when this cold weather comes through, Florida's a month and a week ahead of us, so that would have put us in full bloom, and a lot of them guys don't have frost protection or anything to protect their crops on it down there, because they don't need it most of the time. I know. Was it you, Jesse, that was telling me that it froze down in Cuba this year?
Yeah, it's something like it. I think it's Cuba, but it was a record-breaking thing where it's frozen farther south than in a long time,
Right.
or in recorded history, is what the report said.
So it's hurt a lot of people, I'm sure. So far with us, it with delaying what I delayed, it didn't hurt those. It got the first picking or so of my frost protection fields, but what I'm worried about is usually when you see these Arctic blasts coming like this, that you're gonna keep on having them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know we've been kind of seeing an uptick, and it's it kind of feels like fall. I mean, spring for us, just because the birds and stuff are moving around, and they're kind of hoping we'll hang on to the warm period. But it'd be rough if we get hit again, because I haven't really seen a ton of blooms yet. I imagine they're just starting to kind of sprout out, because we've had a good 4-day stint where we are.
Yeah, when you start having these warm days like this, especially for blueberries, because this is the time that they start blooming. And in the past years, we've had warm Januaries and they start blooming then. But cold as it's been this year, most of them has stayed tighter longer, but it's still, those freezers still got the early stuff.
Yeah. Mr. Jim, you wanted us to talk too about kind of the program and the stuff we saw at Jeremy's?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so we got hooked up with Jeremy when I was actually having a baby, and we were desperate for some labor because Dad went to go pick up the strawberry plants, and we had a friend that knew Jeremy, and he was able to help us with labor. And then Dad started talking to him about the program, and it kind of was giving him some aha moments of yeah, I'm having some of those issues, and Dad's like, I think we could fix it. And we started him out, did soil tests, got to the point where Mr. Jim told us we needed in total 7 tons per acre of high calcium lime to kind of get his saturation level up. So we started with 2 tons per acre because we, obviously with these blueberry guys, if you don't know, they're doing a lot of pine bark mulch. They got a lot of organic matter on those beds. So we didn't, and also too, most people are using granular. So you're not sure exactly how much nitrogen you're gonna activate at that first go around. So we went to 2 and had a great effect. And obviously we were doing, I think in this last year you did 10 gallons per acre of growers on your crop. But pretty much immediately you saw a change.
Yeah, it was great. I started seeing growth on those plants that I hadn't seen in 2 or 3 years. I think the calcium, doing the high calcium lime, and as a blueberry farmer, lime has been taboo. You was told not to put it on there. And then when they started telling me about doing the high calcium lime, I was like, I told Jesse and Bob the same thing. You know, we was told not to put lime on there, but then what they was telling me made sense, and what I was seeing was what Bob was saying that it fixed. So started out last year, and they did a test plot, but then when they did the test plot that they did for me, I was like, you know, if y'all believe in it that much, then I'm going to put the rest of my farm on it. And I did. It did great. It really did.
Yeah.
So the 10-gallon, Jess, how did he spread that out during the growing season?
He did 5 sprays, so 2 gallons at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What was the growth of the plant? In other words, was any of that put on, you know, like pre-bloom, or did he just wait till he had berries? How did that work?
It was yeah. Good.
I start usually when the last of February, 1st of March, when it looks like there's not going to be any more freezes. I'll start putting out fertilizer, and that's when I started this time.
I got
or
you.
last year this time. And then every time they said to put one on, I'd put one on. Now I did do that last one. I went through there and I call it tipping my berries to try to get some extra growth out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did a little bit too late this year.
Mm-hmm.
When I tipped and sprayed, I didn't get the growth that I wanted to, but I didn't start doing it until I didn't give them long enough before they went dormant to get the growth that I needed. So,
now, when you put that, you put the lime on. I mean, these are on established plants. Did you do anything to incorporate it, or did you just spread it right on top?
Just spread it right on top.
Okay.
Just put it right on top of the beds.
Okay.
We had the rain, and when I would water them, it would work it into the ground.
Work it in for you. I got you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have what's going to be your approach? Do you think you'll try to go another ton or so per year, or what's just telling you that he thinks you ought to try to do as far as the calcium is concerned?
So I did 2 tons the first year, 3 tons this year. We're going to do soil samples after probably August, September, see where we're at. And we're going to at least get the 7 tons out, and then go whatever y'all suggest I do from there.
Sure.
Right.
What about I want your observation on the plants. What did you see in the plants that has kind of got your attention that you think the calcium is helping you with?
To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you if it's the calcium or the growers that's doing it, but I mean, the plants look great.
Okay.
You know, I was seeing growth in them that I hadn't seen in years, and then whenever we was putting berries on last year, it was they was loaded, and it was putting new growth on the plants. I mean, usually the 2 or 3 years before that, whenever it was time for the berries to start, you know, with the bloom falling off and the berries to start ripening up, I wasn't getting any new growth on the plants. I would have leaves, but with the growers, I was having new stalks coming out, new growth on the limb, the wood, and I mean that was pretty awesome, I thought. And it was pushing the berries. Sure.
One thing I would like you to comment on: how do you evaluate the quality of the berries? I mean, are you satisfied with that? Has it helped that, in your opinion?
I think we have a higher brick score this year on it. So we had sweeter berries. I think we was firmer also, and I think the longer we go with the calcium, and I think we're going to see more and more of that. So I was before I ever got on the program with Jesse and them, I was putting foliar calcium to them, and I don't think it was doing anything. I couldn't tell the difference
Yeah.
at all.
Right. See the research that was done, at Michigan State University back in the 50s, they were using, radioactive isotopes, and their contention was that when you sprayed the calcium on the plant, it would enter the plant, but that was it, and it wouldn't translocate. But when you put it in the root zone, that calcium just translocates up through the plant totally. And
Right.
what you saw, that you pretty well confirmed that what those guys said back in the beginning. So I think your observation is dead on.
Good deal. I just ready to see what it looks like after 7 tons then.
Jim, can I jump in there? I think he mentioned, and maybe we need to highlight this a little more, the softer berries, they're a little firmer, and that would definitely make sense with the addition of calcium and the growers for an energy source with the phosphorus to grow a
Yeah.
more hardy fruit that'll hold up on shelf life better.
Yeah. No. And the bricks reading, his bricks are up, so he's heading in the right direction. You're dead on there, James.
Yeah, and that's a combination. All that goes together, right?
Yep. Yep. No. And he pretty well expressed that. He said it as well as you can say it, in my opinion. So.
Oh, for sure.
I've got a question for Bob. You saved these strawberry plants. Do you feel that when they start to blossom out, bloom out, do you think you will be hurt with the number of blooms or the size of the berry? What's your whole take on that? After this cold weather.
That sort of remains to be seen. Hopefully, we won't be hurt because
Mhm.
they did produce berries, and we had picked some really good berries for ourselves before this. We didn't have enough to open our U
Mhm.
pick, but we're hoping it doesn't affect our yields and our size. But we'll know in 3 or 4 weeks if we don't get any more freezes that kills blooms again.
Mhm.
But we're really hoping that it's just going to harden the plants up, and we're going to have a really strong harvest, good
Mhm.
harvest after this. Now, one of our customers up about 2 hours north of here, he's got about 40,000 plants, and he's been on the growers program for quite a few years now, and he puts out high cal lime, and he actually put out a little bit of chicken litter too this before the
Mhm.
planting in the fall. And he called a couple days ago, and he was kind of distraught because he's seeing more dead leaves and red leaves on his plants, and his plants are already
Mhm.
producing. They were ahead of ours, and so of course
Mhm.
it wiped out all the berries and stuff. So he was really concerned, but I think his crowns are fine, so the plants should recover. The center of the plants look green still, from what he
Mhm.
said. So hopefully he's going to recover, but he is afraid that maybe he won't have that because usually at the beginning of the season is when you get your best size, um,
Sure.
and typically by March we're wide open, um, peak
Mhm.
season, and then our seasons usually run through May until it starts getting hot. But yeah, we're hoping and praying for a good harvest.
So the other question I have for you guys is, now you've kept these plants alive, and you've got to get them, you know, nutrition. Are you counting more on foliar feeding to get the nutrients in there? Or do you think trickle irrigation is going to be a better way to go?
we're going to do both, probably once a week for each one.
I
We'll
got you.
probably push like 2 gallons per acre through the drip, and at least one starting out, one gallon per acre over the top. And we may even go up to two and potentially even three, depending on how the plants are doing and if they look like they need it. We've done three before in previous years, and it did fine during peak season, foliar feed. And this time too, we're putting selectricide in the mix to kind of help clean everything up, and it does seem to make a difference on our plants so far.
So, Jess, I would like to. I'd like to ask the blueberry gentleman a question. Is he foliar feeding and trickle irrigating both?
Just foliar.
I'm just
Foliar. I got you. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, another thing too with our field, we got kind of an interesting scenario where we switched to that new field, and that's hadn't seen strawberries pretty much ever, or maybe a long time ago. But then we've got one that moved back over to our other field, and those aren't looking as strong, probably a little bit more sandy, but still saturated enough with calcium. And they seem to have been hit relatively harder than the other section. So we're kind of playing around with that one too, to figure out exactly, what the difference is going to be, and playing with different rates there. But we are seeing kind of two different results. We got a deep green over on field one, but then in field two, some deep green, but also some, kind of lighter to some yellowish on them. So we're going to be kind of seeing a little bit of a test there, which I'm excited to play around with. And then for the first time this week, we kind of got to the temperatures where we could fertigate. We actually did the selectricide for the first time through the drip, and I did kind of an interesting test just to see what happened, kind of deal. Because in field two, we've got underground irrigation, and thinking about biofilm and all the different stuff. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put more selectricide in there. It's like, what's it gonna hurt? It's gonna go into the beds, blah blah blah. And I put a pretty high dose in our 30-gallon mix tank. And then as I'm pouring in the growers, I might have needed to wait a little bit, but also I was like, yeah, well, if I learn something, Matt will be happy. And I poured the growers in there, and it just kind of ballooned out into kind of like a pinkish red. I was like, oh wow, this is kind of wild. And then ended up pushing it through. And in the thoughts of, okay, let's kind of clean out our system. So in effect, it kind of took a day, but it did actually perk those guys up a good bit. But I think they're probably going to need a little bit more fertilization than the other field, and probably has more to do with us just keeping the strawberries over there for such a long period of time without a rotation. But we're still going to be playing around with that. But that is kind of something we're going to play with as we go along, because we just kind of lucked into getting some extra plants, and we were able to overflow back into that field and kind of have ourselves a little bit of a test.
So I'd like to go back to the blueberries. When will the blueberries really start coming on, and what's going to be your approach? I mean, are you on like a weekly spray with the growers? And then what volume are you using? And what have the Mercks educated you on as far as water quality? Is your water soft, or do you have to do any acidification, or are you catching rainwater? Guys would want to know what that is with your foliar program.
Last year I sprayed, what was it, Jesse, once a month?
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much around that. I think we kind of timed it dependent upon stress periods a little bit, but it also just depended upon, I think, when you guys were ready.
Couple gallons, Jess?
Yeah, 2 gallons per acre.
2 gallons per acre, yes.
Talk about his water a little, Jess. I mean, did you have to help him with that, or what's
Nah,
that?
he's super lucky. He's got a aquifer and he's pulling up like 200 ppm water. So
Oh man.
pretty much
Okay.
no settling out, and he was a super easy pick once we figured that out, and he actually has a bunch of different wells, and all of them were the same. So yeah,
Mhm.
he's got good water over there.
Do you know what kind of depth are those wells? Are those shallow wells, or are you 100 feet or a couple hundred feet? Do you know anything about that?
From 600 to 900.
They're into the
I
Floridian
gotcha. Okay.
aquifer.
Yeah, they're deep wells.
Educate us a little bit on that, Bob. Educate us a little bit on that, or if you have any background on that.
Yeah, a
Guys,
deep.
water is always an issue.
Yeah, down here, the when we call it a deep well, basically it's like Jeremy said, it's 600 plus feet
I
deep, and
got
it's into the Floridian aquifer. So you get most of the blueberry growers, and I'll try to get into that because you got a good volume, and like Jesse said, the TDS level is really low, so it's definitely a win for water quality.
it. So does that depth help with, no ocean water pushing in on you guys?
Well, usually these deep wells like that, they have pressure. Um, they'll
Okay.
put, I don't know, 6, 8, 9 psi usually. They're
Oh,
free flowing, so there's enough water there to keep the salt intrusion out.
oh,
But I'm
okay.
sure if you over pumped them, you probably would get some salt intrusion.
I gotcha. Is there any demand down there from all the Yankees moving down there with developments hurting the water situation, or you guys pretty well don't have to worry about that?
It's definitely talked about more and more. In fact, um, about 2 hours north of here, kind of near Savannah, they put in a Hyundai auto plant, and a lot of the farmers up in that area were complaining because they punched a bunch of wells, and it affected their supply.
Mhm.
Which I never thought about an auto plant needing that much water, but apparently they do. And in fact, they were organizing some meetings, fact finding meetings and stuff, and they invited Jesse and I to come to them just as a grower on the East Coast, near the ocean and all.
Sure,
Um, but the meeting happened the same time the blueberries were coming in and the strawberries were coming in, and we couldn't
sure.
walk away,
Yep.
so we didn't. I don't know what they said, but yeah, it is a concern for sure because
Well,
there's
okay.
a lot of growth down here.
Yeah, yeah, I'm worried about that. And see, these data centers, we're seeing it in the Midwest, man. And one of the big demands of these data centers is water,
Mm.
energy and water. And
For cooling.
yeah, yeah, they're quite concerned. Yeah, that's right. They're quite concerned about that.
Mm.
I guess the water demand is absolutely huge. We're seeing them in the central part of Ohio where the water is just not as plentiful. And looks like they're creeping to the north. They want to slap a pipeline right into the Great Lakes to
Mm.
try to get enough water to take care of their needs. So that's something, another thing. And even when I was out in the Dakotas, they're chatting about that problem out there too. See, their volume of good water is very, very limited, and it seems like these data centers are going to try to tap into that. And there's quite a bit of an uproar going out there on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, another thing, guys, before I forget it, can we talk about the blueberries and the where they're going? Who when they sell these berries, are they going to local markets? Are they shipped up the coast? Where are most of the berries going? The blueberries, particularly.
Mine goes nationwide, so they'll
I
go.
gotcha.
I'm with a co-op, Michigan Blueberry Growers, and we're part owner of Nature Right Foods. So we go under the Nature Right brand whenever we're sold, and they sell fruit in Canada and all also, but I'm not on the Canadian program to
I
qualify
got
for
you.
that. It's just more headaches. But yeah, we go all over Costco's and Sam's and Walmart's and all the tier ones. We get and a lot of the others, but there's less money in those than the tier ones.
So are you delivering to the same point all the time? I mean, after you harvest, do you take those to the same distribution point?
Yes, sir. I've got a packing shed here, so we'll pack them and get them in the clamshells, put the labels on
Okay.
them, and then from there, our co-op has semis that come pick them up from our packing shed, and they'll take them to we've got the co-op has it's like a 200,000 square foot facility in Alma, and they hold them there and distribute them from there. They'll take them down to 34 degrees and hold them until they get orders for them.
Mm-hmm. Now, when those are semied out, are those in refrigerated trucks, or you just don't cool them down till you get them to the packing or to the distribution point?
Yes, when we pick them out in the field, we have a semi truck out there also. So when we're out in the field, we pick them, we get them in there in lugs, and we try to take it down to about 60, 65 degrees there. And we take it to our
Gotcha.
packing shed, which is at 55 degrees, and let them cool overnight to 55 degrees. And then the next day we'll pack them out, and they'll come that day and pick them up. And when they get them in the semis to take them to the distribution center, the semis are at 34 degrees also. They'll start cooling it down to 34 degrees when they leave us.
Mm-hmm. One other thing I would like you to just comment on, and if you don't want to, that's fine. What's your labor situation? Has this been a struggle for you, or are you got the labor thing figured out? We got guys all around the country. This is a monumental issue.
So for the past 5 years or so, I've been bringing H2A workers.
Okay.
And I got bring about 43 every year. And that's enough for me to run my packing shed and machine pick. But if I need to hand pick, then I got to try to find others. And this year I signed on with a labor contractor, and she's going to bring another 100 or so just for me. If I need them, if I don't need them, they'll go pick at other people's farms. And before this year, I've got friends that have different crews, and I would ask them if they could, they would come help me pick. But mostly I've been machine picking. But it's getting to where the blueberry industry is not very well marketed, and they've allowed the grocery stores to dictate what quality is. So what the grocery store dictates quality is a firm berry, but it don't taste good. A blueberry is like a grape, I guess you could say to me, is when it's the best tasting, it's got a little bit of softness to it. But they don't want that. They want it to be able to stay on the grocery store shelves for another 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been mechanically picking?
I started mechanically picking probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
I've always had hand-picked varieties also, but so the market switched to mechanical about 10 years ago.
I gotcha.
Because the profit margin just is so low nowadays that you can squeak out another quarter a pound by machine picking, but then the quality issues become such a problem. if they would get out there and market blueberries like they market beef or guacamole, or not guacamole, avocados, or that they could also educate while they're marketing and get people to understand that a soft blueberry is still a good blueberry, probably your best tasting blueberry, and we could.
I got you.
Get away with machine picking a little bit more, but it's done switched back to if you don't hand pick, you're going to lose so much culling out what they're considered low quality because it's softer.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, can I ask him a question on he mentioned tiers?
Yeah, go ahead.
Tiers?
Go right ahead, James.
Yeah, this is James here, agronomist with growers. But if you would expound on, I heard you say market tiers. Would you mind articulating that a little?
So like your tier one customer would be a Walmart or Sam's or Costco, the nationwide, a lot of chain grocery stores. And then you got tier twos would be, Harvey's or where there's still a bunch of them, but it's not everywhere. And then you got tier threes would be your local mom and pops. I guess county grocery store or something, IGA or Piggly Wiggly or something like that.
Okay, so
tier one, you're pretty much sending to a distribution center, their distribution center, and they're sending it out from there. And a lot of your tier twos, but then your tier threes, you're sending it straight to the grocery stores.
okay. Appreciate that. Oh, absolutely. Thanks for.
Now, are you selling any local yourself, or is everything going, to the distribution? If you don't want to answer that question, that's absolutely fine.
No, I don't mind. We tried to do some local, like through the school systems last year, and it turned out to be a bigger headache than it was worth.
I got you.
We get a hold of these, or tried to get a hold of these school systems that could take a semi-load at a time, and they want 2 flats or 3 flats, and then Jesse did didn't you help him, Bob? Did some delivering for us.
Yeah.
And you'd go sell to a county, and they would want you to deliver to every school in the county, like 2 or 3 flats to each school instead of sending it to one spot. And
yeah, we took one flat to 16 schools in one county, and thinking that they could accommodate more, and pretty much got ghosted right after that. So
yeah,
it's just like, all right, it's probably we don't have the kind of time to wait, especially with the berries being ready to go.
Sure. Understand. Okay, Bob and Jess, if there's anything else you want to cover, we're gonna head to Louisville here. But if you got anything else you want to talk about specifically, or you want to chat about the blueberries, go right ahead, and then we're gonna head to Louisville.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
No.
Yeah, no problem.
Excellent, guys. It's very good. We really appreciate it, sir. Really, really appreciate it. So, Marty Whitsitt or Mike Bolsher, hopefully you guys are somewhere out there. I'm looking for you on my phone. So one or the other of you, just if you jump on a little bit and educate us a little bit about what's going on at Louisville, Kentucky. I'd like to see Marty start and talk a little bit about his sign that he set up down there that looks like it drew in a few people that had a comment on it. So really, I don't have anybody. What about Michael?
Let me look through the list here, Jim, for you.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, Russ, and I thought Marty was on there, but
Hey, Jim.
yeah.
Jim, can you hear me? This is Chris.
Oh, Chris. Okay,
I'm on
we'll
via the
settle for
phone.
we'll settle for second best.
Second best, absolutely. But no, the show is really busy. I'll tell you what. And Marty Sign always is very provocative, and he handwritten it on a whiteboard this time. I thought that was interesting.
Uh-huh.
So that drew a lot of, it drew a lot, but it was friendly conversation. You didn't see the confrontation or anything like that. It was guys just really inquisitive, and a lot of guys brought their soil test up and said, "Hey, why?" And they started seeing it on their own test, when they were doing grid sampling and all that. So, but I'll tell you what, the whole show was packed for 2 days that I was there, and it's still going on Friday, Saturday. So, good show. Perfect weather down there. It was 70 degrees on Wednesday and sunny. So I enjoyed that, Jim, because we've had our challenges, as you know.
I'm kind of surprised Marty wasn't going to say something first.
I'm here now, Mike. Yeah, I tried, was having trouble getting unmuted for whatever dumb reason. Yeah, if I had a nickel or two for every picture that's been taken of that sign, but you try to wave them in and they just smile and laugh and walk away, I'm sure they're just going to take it to their agronomist and let him point at his diploma on the wall and remind him how smart he is. But I didn't get much out of the people. I mean, when I talk to them, I'm not talking to them about what they're seeing and what they're looking at. So I usually just talk about growers to them or the program. But I did run into one guy from my neck of the woods that made an interesting comment, said that he could tell that the agriculture economy is down because majority of the booths were not giving away much free stuff. He said usually he's around there collecting all the free stuff and there wasn't much being given away. Another observation was that they're in the west wing where we're at, where some of that big equipment is set. There's one whole section that was sitting empty. I
Really?
had never seen that. And some of the smaller rooms where you usually had an aisleway to go in there with multiple booths, there would be one vendor that had the entire room this time instead of multiples. But it's the same. Not a lot of changes from what I've seen of what people talking to us. That you start talking biological and talking to them about they've not heard of rhizophagy or how that works, but oh yeah, they've heard of biological, but the drawback is they haven't heard it from us and they haven't seen where that all started. But when you get a chance to start explaining to them that, how many years we've been discussing that, it does kind of raise their eyebrows a little bit.
Does the calcium discussion, is that improved in your guys' opinion?
Oh, yeah. Everybody walks up to that booth and one of the first things they ask me is, how much is your calcium? What kind of calcium do you have? And like Chris was saying, I had at least 3 people get their soil test out and want me to look at them and read to them what I thought, looking at them. And you see the same thing over and over again. 50% calcium, 18 to 20% mag. Every one of them's got a high percentage of hydrogen on them tests, and all we're having trouble growing this crop or that crop, and we put fertilizer on, and they put calcium on, and you get questioning them about the calcium they put on, and they didn't put calcium on at all. They have no idea what they put on. and if I had to guess, the calcium they put on was dolomite, because when you start really getting into the nuts and bolts about asking them what kind of material it was they put on, where they got it from, they have no idea. They're just saying because they put lime on, they put calcium on.
Gotcha. So the guys that you're talking to, do you feel almost every one of them got an agronomist, or they're working directly with the co-op per se to make their decisions for them? or do you think some of these guys are getting to where they think they got to make a, break away and try to do something different?
Well, three of them I talked to the last 2 days had grid sampling tests. So what's that tell you?
Yeah.
They
Okay.
didn't do that on their own.
No, that's right. That's right.
And with when Marty first put that sign up there, we was getting a lot more agronomists coming up, and kind of was, they had attitudes where now you really don't get the agronomists so much with the attitude. I had one of them, I think it was yesterday, come up there, and he wanted to know what that was all about when I started explaining some of it. He didn't deny any of it. I mean, I told him, I said, first of all, if you hadn't seen that sign, you'd have been clear down the other end of the building by now. And he said, yeah, that's true. I said, this soil testing, it's not an exact science. I said, we've been 70 years in business proving that. And none of it, he didn't argue any of it with me.
Hmm. Was he a young guy or an older guy, Mike?
But about middle age, Jim. We got
Okay.
them out here too.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting.
But
So,
the biggest thing I'll tell you about all the talking with the calcium and everything is people's heard about it. They know something about it, and that's it. Something. It's all confusion. They're all confused.
I gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Just like
And it's
liquid.
refreshing to grab one every once in a while that really gets it. I mean, the guy in there from Maryland today, he's like, this is exactly what I've been fighting. When we tell him the characteristics of low calcium soil and the slick and slimy and sticking to your boots and baking hard as a rock when it's dry, he's like, that's exactly what I've been dealing with, and nobody can explain it to me. You're the only one that's been able to give any explanation. That's refreshing to hear, but does that go anywhere further down the road, or does he go home to his agronomist and get his attitude
Right.
adjusted?
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. That's the problem. And you
And
would think the situation that we're in, you'd think these guys would kind of shed that off a little bit and try to do something a little bit different, or at least give it a try.
well, and another thing that I get asked all the time about is where they can get good calcium at. And the first thing I say, well, where are you from? Wisconsin. I said, man, I can't help you there, but I tell you what, I said, if you sign a card and get this sent to the representative up there, he'll know something.
Yeah.
So,
Excellent.
yeah.
What about the the traffic? Chris thought it was pretty significant. What do you guys have to say about that?
Bell ringing.
I think it was today. Today it was
Yeah.
just, we were slammed all till about 3-4 o'clock. We was just busy all day long.
Yeah. Then you feel bad when you're talking to one guy and two others walk up and grab a little pamphlet and walk away, because they they won't get the gist of it if you don't have a chance to talk with them. But you can't
Right.
talk to everybody, I guess.
Well, 2 minutes just ain't enough to explain things. It's just 2-3 minutes ain't enough. That's the problem.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But I will tell you that I think this is the first year that I remember seeing so many soil tests. I don't think I've ever seen so many soil tests. And this is only day 2.
Mm-hmm. These guys, did they have like a little folder with them, Mike, or did they pull it out of their pocket, or what was the deal that way?
Jim, the almighty phone.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
Well, one guy did have, two guys had paper. They had
Okay.
paper.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And there was 2 guys today pulled their phone out and they had them on their phones.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, Carter McDonald just sent me some soil tests, and he texted them to me. So I didn't even think of that. No, you're dead on. Guys got it on their phone. That makes it a
No, yeah.
lot easier. A lot easier.
Well, I had one guy, he kept showing me the one. And I said, well, I think this is the same test he looked at. Oh, yeah, it was. So he went and started flicking through there again. He was about our age. He's flicking
Mhm.
there again. He goes, okay, here it is. Showed it to me. And I looked at it and I said, well, these numbers are all the same. And he goes, I looked at it. He goes, how am I doing that? He goes, it's here someplace.
I understand. I understand completely. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Very
I
good.
think some of them were coming into the realization. I mean, when you start talking to them, kind of like Dr. Khan had talked about years ago about all the, what did Mike call it, the dum-dum technology or whatever. You know,
Yeah,
you got
that's what he called it. Yes.
super satellites out here aligning to tell you exactly where you pull this soil probe out of the ground. But then we test it the same way we did in 1938. And there's, you know, when you explain how that works, they come to a realization that soil test isn't the almighty word.
Yeah, no, that's right. Exactly. Exactly. Well,
Can I talk in a minute, ask a question?
sure.
Mr. Marty,
Yes.
yeah, maybe you said it, but this is Daniel Weaver. What did you have on your sign? I didn't hear what you had on your sign.
Soil tests are worthless and dry fertilizer is radioactive.
It's okay.
Well, hey, I'm going to tell you guys, Marty's going to do an article about that radioactivity. And boy, I'll tell you what, it's dead on. Marty, did you get my text back to you after you sent me the picture?
I did.
So the first thing I did is I Googled, the question was, what percentage of phosphate deposits in the Earth's crust are radioactive? And when that comes up, it says 100%. So it's pretty interesting, guys. Marty's brother is an engineer and working on radon detection. And he was looking for a radioactive source, and Marty told him just go get some 1846O or diammonium phosphate. And he couldn't believe how much radioactivity he was measuring with that fertilizer. And see, again, that just that substantiates our position, what we've been talking about. And you're going to find that article pretty interesting because they can't shoot holes in it. I mean, Marty's brother knows what he's doing, and it'll be very interesting in my opinion. And it gives his brother something to really pile on these guys. And when I saw that, I thought, wow, I can't believe Mike allowed him to do that. So there you go.
What do you mean?
I figured there'd be so many agronomists breathing down your neck that it would just be very, very adversarial. So
We had an agronomist tell us this is the first year Marty did that. He said, "You guys ain't gonna be in business in another year." He said, "You'll be out of business within a year." I don't know if Marty remembers that when the people were hiding behind the gun safes and everything.
oh, brother, that's excellent. That's excellent.
It's amazing, though. I did have two teachers stop by the booth, and one of them was from Purdue University that was asking an awful lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
And no arguing whatsoever. Fact is, the young lady that was there today, she was from Shelbyville, Indiana. She was really, really listening.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, the adversarial part of it. I mean, this thing with Kennedy, this is really bringing some questions to the forefront. I even noticed it at the meetings. Man, Lauren Sherping's meeting, we got into that pretty deep, and guys they're not poo-pooing this whole thing. So I think you're on the right track. That shouldn't be an issue. It should bring up more questions to guys. And the only reason they won't discuss it with you is they're mad. So again, I think we just somebody's got to get out there and get the strips in. And now let's talk about the strips.
one thing I think, and I was thinking today about this, the one thing advantage that all of us people with the, the representatives with the growers, if they paid attention or if they're doing it, this confusion with calcium. I mean, we probably, I'd say the majority of everybody in this organization knows enough to confidently talk about calcium and the right kind of calcium to these people and clear up some of this confusion, because people know about it and they've heard about it, but they're still very confused. And this one guy today told me he was actually using boron to extract the natural calcium out of the soil. And I said, well, I've never nothing like that.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
and the elemental thing with the sulfur, you still hear about that, and people still think they need it, just like the boron and everything. But none of them have an answer to why they think they need it. Because the first thing I say, well, what did your crop do? How did it look? What was the symptoms? Well, they didn't have it. They listened to some guy talk, and he told them that you got to put this on. You got to have that on. So,
well, I think there's a point to be, I think you're nailing it, Mike, there with, boron's not going to fix a calcium deficiency, but it does play a role in plant metabolism and in kind of the steering wheel of that truck, for lack of a better explanation. But if there's a lack of calcium, there's a lack of calcium. Putting boron on ain't going to fix it.
That's exactly right.
Well, this one guy today with the soil test told me he put on 3 truckloads of lime on this field, and he had his calcium levels at 54% and 19.5 mag.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I said, if you've been putting a lot, and 45% hydrogen, when I see that, something tells me you're not putting on high calcium lime.
45% hydrogen?
45%.
Oh, that pH was probably a little low then, huh?
No, I don't know. It was like maybe in the 6s somewhere.
Okay.
Well, I hate to trace this down, but I'll tell you, James, that Waters lab down there in the South, Mike's dad educated me on that. And this Carter McDonald, who is from South Georgia, those water labs, you look at those tests and their pHs will be 6, 8, or 7, and they'll say exchangeable hydrogen is 25, 30%. And there's just no way that's possible. And we actually, the first time we ran in that, when Ed and I ran in that for the first time, when we were dealing with Carter, we called their lab and said, how can that be when you've got, a neutral pH? Where's the hydrogen coming from?
Yeah.
And they never really did give Carter a good explanation on that. So, and I think that's the only lab that I've encountered that. You get something like A&L or Midwest BioAg, you don't ever see that. But that Waters lab, I'll shoot those soil tests to you, and you can take a look at those. And that's something you got to worry about when you're down in the Southeast.
Anytime, and I'm no expert on this, but anytime I've ever seen a soil test where they've got 80 to 90% calcium, their hydrogen is just about nothing.
Right.
And
absolutely.
And when guys are telling me they're putting on all this lime and they got high hydrogen, I'm telling them, man, it's got to be the wrong lime. You're going the wrong direction.
Yep. Nope. I think you're safe assuming that, Michael, in my opinion.
Well, I look at all our tests and there's no hydrogen on it.
That's right.
I'd like to see, Jim, if you can, I don't know where to find it exactly, but if you could get us some type of reading to show what the pH of these individual elements is. I mean, I've always been taught as far as pH of calcium being roughly 7, but
right.
If the pH of potassium is 8.9, I'd like to have some kind of documentation to show that. But when you start telling some of these guys that, or you ask them the question, you're getting calcium out of your lime, and that's what's going to supposedly push your pH way too high if you put too much on. Well, what is the pH of calcium? Nobody's ever able to answer it. Nobody's ever heard. They just know that the pH goes up when you put lime on.
Yeah. No, that's a very valid thing, Marty. I did an article on that back in the dark ages, and I'll dig that out for you and get it to you, because I went through and kind of tried to explain that, because Ed used that all the time, and guys were quite confused by it. But when you see the predominant anion that runs around in the soil is carbonate. And see, so all these elements will associate with carbonate. And then when you look at the pHs of those different ones, the pH, like calcium, is just a little above 7, and then all the rest of them run high. And that's pretty well taken from the chemical handbook, so that is for real. So I better make a note of that, because in my age decrepitancy, I might forget it, but I'll remember and get that to you. But the only thing I say is I'll get that to you, but you're going to be working on that article for me also. So we'll make a fair trade on that one.
Fair enough.
Hey guys, we better shut it off. I appreciate you guys getting on for me. Fantastic. Yep. And the Mercks and your customer, fantastic. It was a great call. So Russ, if you're still around, I'm going to turn it back to you or whoever's running the show, and you can talk about the next call.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone getting on. The next call is in March on, I believe it is the 12th. We had a question in the chat, but I think James did respond to him about that. So
good.
Yeah. So appreciate everyone getting on, and hope everyone has a good evening. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Growers Mineral Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Growers Mineral for updates. To submit questions for the show, email contact us at growersmineral.com.